Welcome to Politics, Economics, and More. Your go-to channel for insights, analysis, and updates on happenings and developments in Nigeria and the global space. Our goal is quality analysis to deepen engagement and foster dialogue on happenings around you. We hope you enjoy this. To get notified of new uploads, please subscribe and hit the notifications button. Don't forget to like, share and comment. If there is a word that has become associated with the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it is the word reform. The administration spokespersons, defenders, and the president himself have repeatedly stated that the reforms are necessary and painful at that but will over time deliver economic benefits and better lives for Nigerians. Reforms in terms of economics typically refer to structural changes to the modus operandi of an economy and how it operates in order to ensure better outcomes for the all. If indeed reforms are meant to deliver better outcomes and improve the overall well-being of the people, why is that not the case after 2 years? Better still, why is there a disconnect between the economic policies of the government and the living conditions of Nigerians? What is the missing piece in the puzzle? Or the missing link in the program of the administration? On assumption of office in May 2023, two key policy pronouncements by President Tinubu include the ending the petrol subsidy regime and floating of the foreign exchange rate. Prior to May 2023, government finances have become burdened by petrol subsidy to the point that way back in 2022 or thereabout, the NNPC reported nil revenue as deduction for petrol subsidy effectively wiped out cash inflows for the corporation. Based on press reports, the federal government was borrowing to meet basic obligations including payment of salaries. No sensible analyst or observer will argue the fact that the petrol subsidy regime was onerous on government finances. While some posit that addressing the corruption associated with the subsidy was the way to go, others believed outright ending of the subsidy was the sensible thing to do. In line with the latter, the administration of President Buhari had already announced that the subsidy regime would cease effective June 2023. This was a clear case of kicking the can down the road for the next government to deal with. True to campaign pronouncements, President Tinubu declared no more subsidy on the same day he was sworn into office. This saw the skyrocketing of petrol prices with the attendant impact on prices across board, particularly food and other basic needs, with respect to the foreign exchange. The reduced remittances and in certain periods zero remittance by the NNPC to the Federation account have significantly impacted the nation's foreign reserve and the CBN's ability to meet forex demands. There were huge backlogs of unmet demands, including that of airlines, which led to some exiting our airspace. The previous administration's refusal to float the exchange rate and allow market forces determine the value of the naira relative to other currencies meant the exchange rate was largely artificial and flow of foreign currencies to meet the need of importers among others was based on the discretion of the central bank. The above scenario led to the exit of foreign investors and dried up inflows of the much-needed forex to meet vital needs. While government finances were precarious, living costs were still manageable. However, on May 29, 2023, the tide turned around. Government finances went from precarious to abundant as the monthly Federation account distribution saw almost 100% increase. In some months it was higher. Prices of food items among others galloped. A case in point was a 50 kilograms of rice was sold for 30,000 naira prior to May 2023. Within 12 months it was selling at about 100,000 naira. The freeing of government finances from the burden of subsidy and exchange of dollar inflows at the market-determined exchange rate automatically led to a jump in allocations to the three tiers of government. On the other hand, however, the masses on the street bore the burden of improvement in government finances. Consumer prices spiked, with inflation surpassing the 30% within months. Food inflation took the hit as input prices, particularly transport costs, rose astronomically. Against this background, the minimum wage stagnated for well over a year as negotiations were stalled. For keen observers, it was as if the government literally took money from the pockets of Nigerians at the end of the second anniversary of the President Tinubu's administration. Income levels had barely increased by 100% while product prices or general cost of living had moved up by as much as 200% on average. Put in basic terms, Nigerians are plagued by poverty and food insecurity as a result of the government policy decisions. While the international development institutions among others have hailed the policies of the government, the average Nigerian is at a loss as to what went wrong. In a recent report, the International Monetary Fund (IMF) specifically stated the positive impact of the reforms are yet to be felt by the poor. There is clearly a disconnect between policy outcomes and the lives of the man on the street, until the government is able to link the impact of the policies with the cost of living and availability of food on the tables of Nigerians. The policies will be regarded as not only elitist in nature but also regarded in bad taste. Some newspaper headlines have described the reforms and outcomes as a case of rich government with poor citizens. Another described it as economic surgery without anesthesia. All these go to confirm the government needs to connect the dots between policy outcome and the living cost and standard of Nigerians. It has become necessary for the government to be practical and deliberate in providing adequate and impactful social safety nets for the poor. There is need for an aggressive downward push in the prices of food, particularly staples. A significant portion of savings made from removal of subsidies should be allocated to providing the social safety net and addressing the externalities associated with the government policies, while certain measures are in place such as the cash transfer to very poor households and the student loan scheme. These are far in between and amounts to drops of water in the desert. There is need for scaling of social intervention programs and those that address the food prices. Until this is done and positive impact seen, the so-called reforms agenda of President Tinubu will continue to be T-pains for the poor. We welcome your thoughts and comments. Please remember to subscribe, like and share.